Hey everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this series thus far. Before I introduce my next guest, I would like to take this time to thank anyone tuning in for their support. Times are crazy right now, and I hope these episodes can help in any way possible. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Block Talk podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Ramirez, and today's guest is from Cleveland, Ohio, but is LeBron's biggest critic. He attended the University of Cincinnati and was drafted by the Twins in the 29th round of the 2018 draft. Please welcome my good friend, J.T Perez. All right, well, with that being said, let's go right into it. If you'd like to just say hi, you want to give a shout out to anybody? Parents, girlfriend, or fiance, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Hey, all the people sporting.
Yeah,
Watch out.
watch out. All right, man. So first question I've been asking everybody is just kind of the gist of letting people know who you are. So I want you to let everybody know, who are you today?
I'm a baseball player. I'm a painter. Uh,
Full-time
I got
painter,
yeah,
part-time baseball player.
I paint on and off the field. Sometimes. Got a fiance. Other than that, man, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. Keep it
Yeah,
nice,
man.
nice and short.
Nice and sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. Nice to know. Nice to know. Um, so for people out there that don't know, you were drafted in the year after me in the draft,
Hmm.
and we didn't really run into each other, or really didn't have like conversations with each other until this past season, the
Yeah.
2019 season. But I want you to tell me your whole past and who you were before you met me, because realistically I've only known you for a year, and
Yeah.
we just kind of clicked as friends. And so
Right.
I know this guy who you are today, but there's not much that I know about your past. And just so people know, you are a very, very quiet person on the field and in the clubhouse.
Yep.
And to the point that I thought that I was a quiet person until I met you. And so I want you to also share, before you do that, I want you to share your first impression of when we first met. And I'll share mine right now. I'm sure we kind of crossed each other's paths like within the academy. Right after you got drafted, I was in extended still. And the first time I met you was in the dugout. We ended up throwing in the same game. It might have been like your first or second outing there. And all I remember is I just see this big ass 6'4", 6'5" left hand guy, and I'm like, oh, this guy's for sure a starter. And then you're not starting the game, and
No.
I'm like, oh, okay, you must throw cheese then, coming in the pen. And you start warming up in the bullpen. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't see that very often. We got another sidewinder, but from the
Oh
left
yeah.
side, and different body parts moving in different directions. And you stepped on the mound, and I'm pretty sure wasn't necessarily the best outing. Um,
Hmm.
but being a kind of general baseball player, just baseball mind, just kind of saw the talent right away. I think you produced like literally six ground balls in a row, and there was like two errors and then four singles, and it was just one of those bullshit innings.
Right.
And before that, so that's probably like the fourth inning, fifth inning that you went in and pitched, and I'm just sitting at the end of the dugout because I'm not talking to anybody, and you come back in and you just sit down and you just kind of went, and I just kind of went with the little icebreaker and just said, "Tough outing," and you're just like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Hey man, you did your job. Defense didn't help you," and you're like, Yeah. And then
Yeah,
I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, dude, this guy does not talk. I like him. I like him a lot.
yeah, we're like the same in that way. It's funny, man, because like you bring that up, and it's like half the people in my life would say that. They'd say like, "Oh, he doesn't really talk at all. Like
Yeah.
he's pretty reserved, whatever." And then there's the other half that's like, "Oh man, once you get him going, he's crazy."
Yeah.
But it's funny because like I feel like you're the same way. Like when I met you, like my first impression was like, well, I will say this: the first time I saw you, I think you were doing the gun behind one of the extended games. I came out from a lift or something,
Hmm.
and I sat down right next to you, and I saw your like fresh cut mohawk. Like I'm like, yo, this guy, he's got to throw gas. Like I can just by looking at him, like he's gonna throw fuzz. And was I right or not? Because like the first time I saw you throw, you were just like, "Oh, I'll take it casual, whatever." Here's a 5, here's a 6, whatever. I'm like, "What,
Yeah,
dude?" Like,
yeah, you caught you saw me in my pissed off stage too, because I
yeah,
felt like I was there a little bit longer than I should
yeah, man,
have
that extendo Ricky. It's
been.
almost playoff Ricky. For the listeners at home, playoff Rick. I mean, he might hit a triple digit. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Dude,
we creep up sometimes.
yeah, that's right.
All
So,
right, man. Let's get into the very beginning. Uh, Hometown's Orville, Ohio.
hmm
Take it from
small
there.
town. Yeah, small town. I think I graduated with like 120,
Out of high school.
kids in my class. Yeah. Played a little bit of basketball, but by my senior year, I was just sticking to baseball full time, fall ball, summer ball, all that jazz. Went into college as a two-way. I thought I was a better first baseman than pitcher because in high school and all through growing up, pitching was not something I really enjoyed doing because it
Yeah.
was either I felt like I was a perfectionist and it was one of those things where like I didn't have an outing go my way or things would happen behind me or whatever would happen, umpires, whatever. I used to let it get to me, and it was just
Hmm.
like I can't stand pitching. So I was big into hitting and everything else, and so I went into Cincinnati as a two-way. Um, there weren't very many other schools that I was looking to go to. It was actually just like one of those things where he called me on like a Tuesday, and I signed on like a Friday as soon as I
Yeah.
went down there. So it was like I know I'm going here, but yeah, the plan was to be a two-way, and that ended pretty quickly. I mean, a couple fall ABs, and they were like, "Oh, we'll smell you later, dude." So I became a pitcher, which I pitched my senior year a little bit. So by the time I got there, I was like, "Okay, I know how to pitch a little bit." But yeah, once I got to school, it was mainly pitching. Although there were some ABs, and I'm sure you'll bring that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But
We'll save
there
that
I
for a
got
little
I got some
later.
explanations. I got some explanations about those. So, but yeah, once I got to college, it was definitely weird because, like I said, I was coming from a small town. And I went to Cincinnati, and it's like there's 40,000 plus students.
Hmm.
Just trying to figure out how to even get around the class and practice and how to balance everything. Freshman year was a whirlwind, and I didn't play too much. Like I said, I had like 11 ABs or something, and pitching I only threw like 20 some innings. Pretty rocky. It was a lot of ups and downs. We were trash. We were like 15-41, and
Yeah.
Ian Happ was on the team. And had he not been on the team, we probably would have been like 2-54. I mean, it was like we were bad, but we were really young. We had like 22 freshmen.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if you want me to keep talking about
No, you can
college,
even
but
go. You can even go
but
before that. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
little 5-year-old JT throwing the rock around. Like, when did you start?
yeah, I mean, I used to play like any sport I could, but it was funny because um, like baseball, I was always slinging the football around.
Hmm.
That was probably my most favorite thing to do. I mean, I was up until like flag football in sixth grade. I was like, oh, I want to be a quarterback. I
Yeah.
was like slinging around. Mike Vick was my favorite guy to watch. Not that I'm fast, but he's left-handed.
Hmm.
Throws his sidearm. I'm like, oh, I want to be a quarterback. But I always knew like, we played more baseball than anything, summer ball and
Hmm.
everything else. I had an older brother who was kind of like an influence for me growing up because I saw him play for some pretty competitive teams, and and I knew like, all right, like this is where we could thrive. But I always loved the game. I mean, like I said, I thought I was more of a hitter than a pitcher, but I was one of those that, like you said, people didn't see left-handed sidearmers very often.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches, when you're growing up, they're like, "Oh, that's how you're gonna blow your arm out,"
Hmm.
throwing sidearm. What are you doing? You're never gonna make it, kid. And it's funny because I just always did that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want like seeing Jeter across the infield, even
Yeah.
like he was my favorite players to watch, and it was like, he used to sling it across the infield. Like that's what I want to do.
Hmm.
So even when I'm pitching or like warming up, to this day, people are like, you look like a first baseman or something, just playing catch till you get out to like
Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so when I grew up, like I said, small town, big influence from my dad and my brother, just playing in the yard, stuff like that. So,
How you said that your brother was a good influence on you? Was he a pitcher as well, or was he kind
yeah,
of
so he's my size.
the right-handed, left-handed?
He's right-handed. He played at Owens Community College a couple years, and he would pitch, but he had a knuckleball, so he was like a completely
Okay.
different than me. But like he was pretty nasty back in the day, but he was more of a hitter. But it was funny because like I said, the things that I took from him, like he's more quiet than I am. He's more reserved than I was on the field. So just the things that you take away, like I think the biggest thing growing up was like we didn't want to tell people. We weren't showing up, like he and I both, like he was more reserved than I was, and our mentality was just like, we're not here to like come on the field and be like, oh, look at us, we're the best on the
Hmm.
field. Oh, I lost him. All right, I'm back. I don't know what's going
Uh,
on. Is that me
no,
or you?
I think it's on your end, but
Probably me.
I don't know. I've had some connections issues. Yeah,
All right.
there's no worry about it.
Yeah.
Um, but you guys weren't really showboats. You guys just kind of
No.
out there to play
Uh,
the game.
and that was the thing. Like we just wanted to let our play do the talking, and I still do that to this day. I
Hmm.
think a lot of times, like even now, people look at me and they're like, "Oh, just the way he walks, and like he doesn't say much. Like he must be cocky, or oh, he must think like he runs the joint or something like that." It really isn't anything like that. It's just for me, like knowing within myself, like I put the work in, I put the time in, like my play will do the talking for me. Like I'll just set by example.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny
Um,
that you mentioned that because in the episode that I did with Jared, that was a big thing that I said is that I actually kind of mentioned it in two of the episodes where that kind of quiet, reserved persona that someone can carry, they're
mhm,
just they think that's the way to kind of stay out of trouble and go about their business and really focus on themselves. And a lot
exactly.
of people do perceive that as someone being too cocky or too good to have a conversation with them and think they're kind of putting themselves on a pedestal and stuff of that nature. So you mentioned that dropping down to sidearm, like this was something that came natural and that's something that you always did.
hmm
What
so it was one of the things, like I said. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna lead that into when you went into college. Was that something that you think
Uh,
that was the reason why they picked you up in the first place, just because of that different
uh,
slot?
Possibly. I mean, I really think it is because it was just unique, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't understand. Doing what doing what makes you you is what you're probably the best at. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, you can reinvent yourself and all that stuff, but I mean, when you stay true to who you are, like, there's a reason that a lot of the times it'll work out that way. Like, I went to college and like I said, I threw sidearm the whole time, and I wasn't throwing it very hard, but I still to this day focus more on movement and location and everything else. And for me, like I said, like, I wish I was a guy that threw 100? You know what I mean? Of course, like who doesn't?
Yeah.
But for me, it was knowing like, all right, I could throw over the top and maybe sit low nines or whatever, you know what I mean, or high eights, low nines, whatever. But I'd rather be sidearm and focus on movement, location, everything like that. So that was kind of my meal ticket, really, in a way. And it's funny because um, you mentioned that you saw me and you were like, "Oh, he's got to be a starter."
Yeah.
It's funny because I was a starter.
Hmm.
So like my sophomore year, I played like I said, I only threw like 20 innings, all in relief. Really, I had like one start my freshman year. But when I got back, it was like, all right, I don't know what happened in the fall. I just started like a few games and it went well, and from there on out, like I was a Saturday guy the whole sophomore year, and threw like 90 some innings or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it went well. And it was just like I said, it was more just pitching to my strength. It wasn't worrying about starters are over the top, or like it wasn't. It was me just doing what I do, And the same thing with my junior year, and then by my senior year, I will say I started messing around with throwing from different angles. I mean, I was more so
Yeah.
probably still like here. I don't know if you can see that in the
Yeah.
camera, but I'd start moving all over the place just because it was something else by my senior year. But I mean, even to this day, I still, like you said, I'm submarine
Mm-hmm.
sideline guy. So
Okay. Um, well, now that you started talking about college, you want to talk about kind of like the grind through college,
oh yeah,
coming in, being a freshman. You mentioned that at the beginning is just total culture shock to you, coming from a
yeah.
small town, graduating class of 120. Going into a school with, what did you say, like 20,000, 40,000 people or something like that?
Yeah, 40 plus. Yeah, it was. It's funny because like there were people that told me, which is probably the reason that I kept going, was able to do it, is because I'm sure it's like you in a lot of ways. Like when somebody tells you, "Oh, you won't make it," or "Oh, like I don't know, you might be outstepping your boundaries or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
Like it just made me want to do it even more.
Yeah.
Not only to prove other people wrong, but just to prove to myself that like I knew I had it all along. But man, like freshman year was tough because it was like when you when you get there, you hit the ground running, and I
Yeah.
literally mean running. We were running, conditioning nonstop. You're doing like 6 a.m. lifts 3 times a week. I mean, you get down to the nitty gritty. You're grinding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was a two-way, so it was like, oh, okay. I look at the time. Oh shoot, I'm gonna be late for my hitting, but then I gotta be in my Spanish class, and then I come back, and it's like, oh, I gotta do PFPs now. But am I at first base or am I off the mound? Oh, we gotta do base running, but I was supposed to go throw a bullpen. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Some people make it work. I'm honestly like I couldn't be happier with how it worked out. Like I'm such a good pitcher, but oh yeah, it was such a grind. But that's the thing. Like I said, people assume you can't do something, and I don't know where that comes from out of them. Is it despite that they're jealous or whatever? But like to anybody out there that thinks like, oh, people have told them, oh, they
Yeah.
can't do something. It's like, oh, don't listen to what anybody says. You know what I mean? Like I always knew in the back of my mind, like this is something I always wanted to do. I always
Yeah.
wanted to play pro ball, and it was like I wasn't gonna let anybody get in the way of that. And I definitely had some bumps and bruises along the way. Like I said, after my freshman
Literal.
year, I was literally,
Yeah.
after my freshman year, I'm like, they might not invite me back, but if they
Yeah.
do, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just gotta keep grinding. And I'm sure you know the same.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. So
Yeah. The thing is I may know what you're talking about, but there are a lot of people out there that don't,
yeah,
and they
and
need
that's
somebody, and they hear it from one person, and they're like, "Ah, he's just bullshitting. He's
yeah,
being dramatic. It's not that bad." And then you hear stories that are worse than your experience,
yeah,
and then you're like, it's just like kind of mind opening. And I think that's what a lot of people so far that have liked about this isn't necessarily like all the in-depth things that come with like on the field stuff. It's all the off the field and like
oh yeah,
managing personalities and hearing the stories of like these crazy things that happen that are either baseball related or in some way with your friends that
yeah,
you made through baseball. It's funny that you mentioned like running right when you got to college, and then you're saying like literally running. And
yeah,
one of the main things that I wanted to talk about with you was our experiences dealing with more of the mental side of baseball put on, I guess, technically by the physical strains that are
mm-hmm.
put up against you, especially coming from high school, going into college. Maybe your body's not necessarily like mature to the point of like, um, my buddy mentioned he came in, he's like 5'8", 5'9", second baseman, and he's 150 pounds, and you got guys that are fifth year seniors there that are 5 years older than you in the weight room, and they're expecting, like, the coaches are expecting you to put up the same amount of weight as those guys. And
Yeah.
then on the field, the expectations are for you as a 17, 18-year-old freshman coming in and doing the same exact thing that a 22, 21 to 23-year-old kid is doing, and doing it the
Hmm.
same or better. And it's
Yeah.
like that mental toll alone caused by the physical you
Yeah.
know um can really destroy a player. And you do see that a lot of, you said you had a big class of 22 freshmen. How many of
Hmm.
those guys stuck around?
Right. Yeah. Maybe five, six of us, and it was like I completely agree with what you're saying. It's one of those things where, like you said, the grind. I remember the first day we went into their weight room, and they were like, "Oh, all right, put 235 on the rack. We're gonna do front squat." And I'm like, I was in a small town. I'm like, yo, we barely even had a squat rack. Or like, they were like, oh, we're gonna do some hang cleans. I'm like, I'm about to snap my wrist clean off. I've never done any of this. You know what I mean? So like, and you're seeing the kids that like, oh, I went to a D1 high school, and or they had done all this stuff before, and
Yeah.
you think, oh, they have so much more experience. You could literally mentally tell yourself like, oh, I'm not gonna make it because they already have the upper hand. But it's
Hmm.
like, if you're a bulldog and like you tell yourself like, no, I'll figure it out, then you do find a way. Like, I'm gonna get scrappy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna get greasy, and I'm gonna find a way. And it's funny, like that translates on the mound, because not only when I can tell. It's funny because I can tell, like, and you can probably do this. You can probably tell the same. A lot of pro guys probably can tell the same. But like when you're in college, like you can tell who would grind through adversity and like who's gonna fall back.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can tell, like, the reason I respect you so much on the mound too is because like I can tell you're a grinder, and it's like
Hmm.
some people like might be naturally gifted or like they can get by on some things, but like I could tell you're a grinder because like I remember we were in Fort Wayne playing the Tin Caps, and it was the ninth inning, and I don't remember what exactly happened. Like the bases got loaded, there was an error, like a drop third, strike three or whatever. We got the bases loaded, and we're up by one, and
Yeah.
there's no outs, and I'm like, all right, like we're gonna see, like
We gonna
you
learn
know,
today.
we're gonna learn today. I'm like, Ricky's a grinder. Like I can tell he is, but like I want to see him in this moment.
Yeah.
And it was just like you couldn't even tell. And this is what makes you a great player, and this is what makes all the baseball players great players, is their mental ability to like shut out everything that's happened, and like they want to be in that situation. And I'm not kidding. It was literally like, oh yeah, bases loaded, whatever. We got 10,000 people on a Friday night. Oh, Ricky's like, oh, all right, strike out, strike out, struck out all three, like right in
Yeah.
a row. And I was like, oh, Ricky's a grinder. Like I can tell, like he's the guy that I would respect, like
Yeah.
to the end of the earth, because I can tell, like some guys will give in and be like, oh, you know what, like it wasn't my fault.
Hmm.
Bases were loaded, but like I didn't put us in that situation, and you were like, oh, I don't care what it is, like it's
Yeah.
just another game to me.
Yeah.
That's that mentality, like you talked about, like
Dude, that's so funny that you bring that up. What in order to succeed in those situations, you have to be through those. You kind of have to fail in those, situations as well. So obviously, there's been plenty of times where game's been on the line, bases loaded, whether it's my fault or, you know, errors behind me or just
mm-hmm.
bullshit calls, whatever, and I haven't come through.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got drafted and I was in E Town, there was a very similar game to that. And I think, I don't think the game was on the line, but it was kind of like one of those blowout games. You kind of get in those like not meaningless innings,
Mm-hmm.
but like people see them as
But
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah,
garbage time innings.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the game's not on the line, whether you're up by 8 or down by 8. But at the end of the day, those outings still like affect your stats,
oh yeah,
and people, it's a developmental league. People are still looking at how you respond. I just remember bases loaded, no outs, and I like get an out. I get like a sac fly, so that guy comes in and scores, and then I give up like kind of like a line drive ball to left field, and then outfielder misreads it. So then it's a double or triple off the wall,
mm-hmm.
or like three hopper to the wall, two hopper, and then everyone comes in. And I just remember I'm sitting on the mound, and when you're a freshman in college, or like a even sophomore in college, it's like those are the things that eat in you up. Like that's fucking bullshit. Like,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
I shouldn't even be in this position.
yeah.
And I
There
just
goes the ERA, all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. There goes the stats because of the way that the balls were. They didn't count it as an
hmm
error. They called it infield single and stuff like that. And I just remember from that moment, I go, it's just like I'm back in college. Like, you
oh
know,
yeah,
like some things just never change. You know,
yeah,
like you're just constantly going to get screwed over, and it doesn't matter what level you're at. I mean, obviously, the higher you go, there's going to be a lot more plays that are made behind you on like a consistent basis, and then you're going to have like, you know, a ball that in college, a line drive to the shortstop 7 feet to his right, the guy's going to be looking at it, and that's just going to be rolling to the left fielder.
yeah,
Versus in the big leagues, the guy's going to take 2 steps and dive and catch
come
that
back
ball
in.
for you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but no, there's just moments like that that you kind of um, pointed out. So like after that happens, we're on the road. This is the biggest crowd we've had in probably
basically all season.
since
Yeah,
you've been in college, you know,
yeah,
and it's gonna be the biggest crowd we have all year.
right.
And it happens, and it's just like dead silent, and I'm just like screaming, like
Yeah,
hyped. But
yeah,
I don't even care about like winning the game. It's more of that like, yeah, like that was like that took grit, that took
yeah,
like that's a joke, like grit, the word
yeah,
grit. Like it's just good moments like that where,
yeah.
as you mentioned, you you can tell, and that is a way that as a ball player, like coming through those situations, you do earn a lot of respect, not just from the coaches, but your teammates and spectators. And it's not because you outperformed the other team, it's that you overcame the adversity and
hmm
able to do that. And with that being said, I want to know your favorite moment, because that moment and basically the identical moment that happened the last game I pitched
hmm
in playoffs this past season. Those were my two favorite Twins moments. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want to know, so far in your year and a half since
hmm
this season's been put on halt, what is your favorite Twins moment? And it doesn't have to necessarily be on the field. It could be just stuff happening in the clubhouse. You know,
Um,
something crazy happened when you driving home back from the field. You know,
yeah, I mean, I'll say my favorite on the field moment was winning the championship in E-Town.
yeah,
Because that was really cool because it was like, I never, like in high school, we went to the Final Four, state championship, whatever, and then got no hit,
yeah,
by this dude who got drafted in the second round. So, like, whatever. And then college, like, man, we struggled in conference tournament play, like, especially at the end of the season. So we never really won anything there either. And so like when I got the pro ball, it just meant a lot because it was like plus like as much as I do like E-Town like they eat that up. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's their Super Bowl. Like
yeah,
they love the E-Town Twins. So like when we won it, it was like there's 12 people in the stands. I don't care. Like dude, it means a lot to these people
yeah.
and a lot to us because it was like it would have been easy to pack the bags and be like, oh, playoffs, I'm ready to go
Mm-hmm.
home. Season's over. We were like, nah, we're gonna win that. So that was cool. That was probably my favorite on the field moment. Um, off the field, I don't know. I've had a lot of laughs. Uh, what's funny is I will say one thing because I thought about it the other day. I was riding in the car with Gabe Snyder,
Uh huh.
and it was this March, and we were heading to the meeting where they were about to say, "Oh, you're about to go home,"
Yeah.
and we just got Chick-fil-A, and we're like, "Oh, we got to go to this meeting." Like they just called a meeting or whatever, and literally like I'm like trying to scarf down my food because I don't want to take it in to the
Yeah. Like
to
into
the
the
yeah
yeah.
into the meeting room. So I'm like scarfing down these fries and chicken and stuff, right? And Gabe like slams on the brakes, right? And I'm like, oh, I didn't swallow something, right? Right? So I'm like choking on something, I'm like, dude, I can't even speak. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, I'm gonna die in this car if you don't help me out. And he just hits me with the hardest, like, slaps on the back of my neck, like that was gonna help me. And I'm like dying, but also laughing at the same time because it's like, bro, you hit
Yeah.
me like right here, like the food was stuck in my neck.
Yeah.
Oh man, Tyler Webb was in the backseat. Oh, we were dying. It was hilarious. I mean, I almost died, but it was funny. So
uh, yeah, good times in E-Town, man. That's a different breed.
yeah, you got that right. Yeah.
I would like to say I had some favorite memories there, but I don't.
hey, hey, you know what it is? That's a grinders league.
Yeah, it
That's what
is.
I will say. That's when you figure out, like, in my first season there, like I was trash. I was running on fumes. I'd thrown a lot of
Yeah.
innings by the time I got there, and like made the transition from starter to reliever, and like things just weren't going well once I got there, like my first season. But it was like it was a grind, man. That's a grinders league right there, the old athlete league special.
Yeah, yeah. Good old Ray over there.
Oh yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah.
So
What is he on his 18th year coaching? More than
yeah,
that?
maybe probably more than that.
Yeah.
He's won a ring like 12 times. They bring it home for the boys.
I'm gonna save a question for later. Um, I wanted to transition and ask you like what your favorite college memory was, and it could be either good. I was gonna say it could be either good or bad, but I have a pretty good idea of what your worst college memory is, and so I'm gonna save that for later.
Oh
So
yeah,
so
I'm sure you know. Yeah,
so
yeah.
you could share like what your
Uh, ooh, my favorite one. Well, we beat number one Louisville
huh?
in a midweek game. Number one Louisville. We
Oh,
beat
okay.
them when they won. They were undefeated at the time, I think, and it was like a Tuesday. It was my junior year, and they came to play us. And so it was at our place, and we were like, hey, like this is a game, like we might be in it. You know how midweeks are, like they're
Yeah.
always kind of up in the air. But at the same time, like they're number one, like their midweek guy is going to throw 94, have some pretty nice breaking ball, like all
Yeah.
this stuff. So yeah,
Like
we got to be
it's
up.
like their best freshman.
Yeah, yeah, it's their best freshman, and it's most teams like Friday or Saturday guy.
Yeah.
If you're not SEC or ACC or whatever. So I'm like, hey, we'll see how it goes because they're up in the air, right? And I don't know what it was, but like we had a good start out of a guy, and then my buddy throws another few innings, and it gets to like the sixth inning or fifth inning, and my coach is literally looking at like the Friday guy, the Saturday guy, and the Sunday guy, and he's like, you know what I'm thinking? We already knew. We already had our cleats on. We were like, he's gonna make us throw in this game. So it was literally like our Friday guy throws like the sixth inning. I went in through like the seventh or part of the eighth or something, and then our Sunday guy closed out the ninth inning. And it was like, they know we did them dirty. Like they're gonna remember
Yeah.
this, right? It was a blast because it was just like, like we beat the number one team in the nation. But I will say, little footnote, we did play them the next year at their place, and we lost like 28-3. So I mean, it wasn't very funny then.
Yeah.
They definitely
But
remember. They knew what we.
they weren't number one.
No, no, they knew what we did, but we had to do it. We had to do it.
All right. The next question I got is what is your favorite memory with me? And there's a lot of people that aren't going to understand this, but I'm just simply going to say my favorite memory with you is showing you the LeBron videos.
Oh, I was gonna say the same.
And and then just for the course of the rest of the year, just using the quotes from those videos.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, dude. I was literally gonna say the same thing because we had been pretty close and like talking in the dugout.
Yeah.
You know how it is. Like in the season, like you have those signature moments where you're like, oh, we're gonna remember this till till we never see each other or whatever. And like I knew right then, I was like, oh, we're gonna be saying this every time. Like,
literally every text conversation we have, one of those phrases is included.
Yeah, it has to. It has to.
So I wrote down what I wrote down was the kind of just general bullpen dugout talks with it's just Nate, me, you,
Yep.
just
Yep. And
at the
it's
very end of the either
yeah,
dugout or the
talking
bullpen.
about anything under the sun. Talk about movies we've seen, conspiracies, everything.
Oh, I
I mean,
forgot. We had a
yeah,
whole 2 weeks at the end of the year where every day was a new conspiracy
it
theory.
was getting heavy.
Yeah.
It was getting heavy. I was like, my phone's gonna be bugged here in a second, boys. Keep it on the
They
field.
tapped into the camera right
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Exactly. I'm gonna put the sticky note up after I'm done. So it was funny. You know what? You know what? It wasn't even one of us, but it was listening to Cha describe. Um,
Death Note.
no, it wasn't even Death Note. It was Sweeney Todd. He
Oh
described
yeah.
he described the whole movie of Sweeney Todd, which is like he did it in an hour, and he was like, and then he said this, and then he said this, and then he said that, and I was like, you know, all the lines. How many times have you seen this movie? He was like, oh, I've seen it once. That blew my mind. I was like, bro, how do you remember
He
all that stuff?
started in inning 3 and ended in inning 7.
Literally, I was.
Nonstop. Didn't look at the field once.
I thought for a second, I'm like, were you in this movie? Because like I would, I don't remember all this. That was funny, but
Good times, good times. Um, well, with all those being said, wanted you to ask you throughout your career so far, and hopefully, there's a lot more innings thrown in your career. What is the biggest life lesson that you think baseball has either introduced to you or taught you, kind of opened your eyes to?
not only would I say, well, there's a few things. I would say more so in the game of baseball than anything like so far, because obviously it's been pretty prevalent in my life, but like I've met so many people and gone to so many places.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one of the biggest things. Like, if not for baseball, I wouldn't have gone to Cincinnati. And, had I not done that, then I wouldn't have done this and that. And, I would have never met guys like you and gotten to do those things. So like, that's part of it. Like getting to go places and meet all these new people from different places of the world. Like that's something exciting to me because like I said, like how often, at a workplace, like, you work back home in California, or whatever, how often are you going to meet dudes from the Dominican and like almost like all
Yeah.
the states, you know what I mean? Like you don't really do that in a lot of places, and you get close with a lot of guys. So that's one thing. And I would just say like not taking for granted that at the end of the day, like it is a game, and like this whole thing right now really just shows you like, man, they can take it away like this. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We didn't think
Yeah.
we'd be sitting talking on Zoom right now, but
Exactly.
here we are. Like that's one of those things. Like you get the calendar, and you're like, all right, we'll be playing here, and like, oh, it'd be cool to play here, and oh, I get to play my buddy this week, and like we haven't done any of that. It's like you count those chickens before they hatch.
Yeah.
It's That's probably the biggest thing. Like you just never know like when it can be taken away, and you just got to enjoy like every second of it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned both two things that I did want to talk about. Both very specific things that I want to talk about. The biggest thing is the first thing that you mentioned was more about the opportunities that baseball have kind of offered you. And that was a whole segment that I wanted to do in each individual episode, and just never really, the conversations never really took it that way. It's kind of like a weird transition to bring those in. For me, it's exactly all the outlets. That's like the biggest thing for baseball, especially since college, is just all the opportunities. I love travel. You know, personally, I like more of like hiking and
mm-hmm.
adventuring side of traveling. But not every single person can say, "Oh yeah, in the past 6 months, I've been to 6 different states."
Exactly.
Just all the miserable bus travel that we have. But it's just, for example, this off season I drove cross country from California to Florida. I mean, I was in each state. Some states I went through 3 states in one day, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I did
You kind of did,
visit. Yeah,
did
I
it.
did visit it. Um, but all the opportunities of simply spring training in Florida, when I first got drafted, my first spring training, I hadn't seen my sister in 2 years, who was living in Tampa at the time. And so
Wow.
I flew into Tampa before spring training, and it's like they paid for my flight to go to
Yeah.
Tampa, and then she just drove me down to Fort Myers.
Yeah.
And in the off season a couple of years ago, just going on, I've gone to this music festival 3 years in a row, and it's like there's no way in hell if baseball wasn't in my life that I would be financially able to do that in
Exactly.
the first place.
Yeah.
And so I like that you mentioned that, because I really do think that when everything is said and done, the biggest thing that people will look at is like there might be some hard feelings maybe on how things ended, or maybe they wish things could have gone a little differently. But everyone's gonna look back and say like, well, I'm just happy that I had the opportunity in the
Oh
first
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Second thing that you mentioned is having that opportunity kind of swept under our feet, just
Hmm.
in the blink of an eye. And I haven't wanted to talk about it in the other episodes as much, just because with everything that's happening around us, I don't think people really wanted to hear about, the coronavirus, all the
Yeah.
stuff that's going on in the world.
Right.
Um, but I actually wanted to ask you just straight up, like, how have you been throughout this whole process? Well, for me, I went to California for a couple weeks, like I mentioned to you before we started this. And then I recently came back to Florida and kind of living in this apartment, just kind of waiting just for an answer, because we haven't had
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wanted to know how, just give people kind of insight of, hey, I was at spring training, boom, next day I'm at home.
Right.
What have you been doing since then?
Right. I will say, like, I probably had it better than most people, which I'm thankful for. I got some good buddies that were like, hey, I know a guy that's got keys to this warehouse, and like we can get in or whatever. Or like, oh, hey, I got this big backyard. We can throw bullpens. I made this mound. Like, so I was pretty fortunate because, like I said, there's 5 or 6 dudes that I know around my area that are also in pro ball or college guys that want to get to pro ball, and they were like, hey, we can work out every day. We can
Mm-hmm.
make things happen. So for me, in that aspect, like I've been pretty fortunate that I have those people in my life. And like you said, as far as home situation, everything else, like I'm living back home. But at the end of the day, like you take it for what it is. I get to see my family every day, get to spend more time with my fiance that I didn't think I'd be spending. Just stuff like that. Seeing buddies that you may not see now that things are starting to open up again and it's safe,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. It's stuff that you wouldn't have expected. Like, would I rather be playing? Yeah, of course. That's our goal. That's our passion. But like taking it for what it is. If this is how it is, I'm going to see the people that are important in my life, and
Yeah.
live each day to the fullest. So
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, is because I had the opportunity of, right when all this happened, is I could have just sat in this room all by myself for
yeah.
who knows how long. And it's like, well, I got all my stuff here, I have my car here. Am I just gonna turn around? I just got here 3 weeks ago. Am I gonna turn around and drive cross country, and then in 2 weeks later you guys tell me I gotta drive cross country again?
Mm,
So I thought the most important thing for me was to kind of go back and kind of spend as much time with family as I could. And I didn't really do like with my family. I went back, moved back with my girlfriend and her family
yeah.
for a couple weeks. And the reason I did that is because where my dad lived and where my mom lives, like they live in Sacramento and San Francisco, and everything was shut down there.
Yeah. You can't get out.
Parks were shut down. At the time, all retailers were shut down. It was San Francisco was on lockdown. It was just a shit show. And so I was like, okay, I'll go down to Orange County area, more options, more people. We have guys in our organization that I was able to play catch with, every single day. And then about 3 weeks into that, then down there they said, okay, we're shutting everything down here. All the parks are closed, all the mounds are closed. Um, we're hopping over high school fences and throwing on football fields at 5 o'clock, because if we went at 10 o'clock, the maintenance workers would
Yeah,
kick us off,
yeah,
and
they're gonna.
so
Yeah,
that was the crazy thing is we drive like 15-20 minutes from where she lived, and we pull up at 10 o'clock and there's nobody there, and we're like, okay, is it closed? I mean, there's signs on there. Should we do it? We're on there for like 5 minutes. They're like, yeah, y'all gotta go, and
yeah,
so we're like, okay, like, oh, we're out here, so we like go try to find another park, just
yeah.
find flat ground of grass, throw on that. Next day we show up at like 5 o'clock and there's like 25 people on the football field. And right before they closed everything down, the same thing. We were going to a different park at 10. There'd be like 5 people there. We showed up one day at 12 and there was like a football clinic going. And it's like, what are we doing here?
Why are
Like,
we? Why are
yeah.
we?
Like
Yeah,
you're just giving them more reason to close everything down.
yeah.
It's like, it's different if it's two, three, four people trying to get
Right.
work in versus a whole high
Yeah,
school team running
yeah,
practice, at
yeah.
a
So they'll
public
bring
park.
the band, and everybody.
Yeah.
Good.
And so, yeah, I just want to kind of give people an insight of, someone else's life and kind of
Mhm.
how they've been affected, and to show like, yeah, some people are in better position than others. I'm thankful that I have this apartment. I had family support back home, and there are people that are in our organization, that I know personally that they kind of just got themselves. They may have a wife or a fiance,
Yeah,
and that's about it. And they're just on their own, and
yeah.
they just got to figure things out as they go. They're asking the same questions that we're kind of asking. Like, you picked up a job, and it's just kind of like
Hmm.
there's a lot of guys saying, "Do I get a job? Not get a job?
Yeah.
If I get a job today, are we gonna get a call tomorrow?" You know, the one thing that I forgot to mention is that I think it'd be just kind of appropriate thing, since both of us are in the same organization, to just let people know that there are a lot of organizations that stop paying their
Hmm.
players. But the Twins, and I believe you mentioned the
As
Indians.
the Royals and maybe the Reds and Astros, a couple other teams. Forgive me for not knowing all of them, but yeah, the Twins, like you said, they're paying us through what the end of the season would be. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't make any cuts. That's another thing. It's like I got buddies that got released, and they probably wouldn't have had they gotten a chance to play in a season, or you just don't know how things would have shaken
Yeah,
out. And so, yeah, like you said, I'm thankful to be a Twin. That's for sure.
yeah.
So,
Um, I did read an article that said that. I mean, I just want to hear what your opinion on this as well. Is that this is kind of just speeding up things that the MLB has been wanting to do for some time now, such as like trimming some leagues or trimming some teams altogether, as in like minor league teams. Um, with that being said, if that does happen, which I do believe that will happen, I think the whole kind of like Appy League or some form of rookie ball, they're going to have to take that whole 15 team league out in some way. Then that'll change the draft, change
mhm.
signing bonuses, change player salaries. One thing that I saw that was very interesting to me is they said that if they do that, there will be a huge spike in independent ball teams.
Yeah,
Do you see that happening?
I do. What's funny is because like they had talked about, I don't know, they called it a dream league or something. I don't know. I read an article about it where like the teams that are going to get cut, they're going to enter their separate leagues that
Mm-hmm.
are indie ball. Like if they cut the whole Appy League, oh, we're an indie ball league now,
Yeah.
and it's like I'm glad that there is that opportunity for indie ball to like keep going and stuff like that. But like you said, like it's tough because you're going to lose a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
You're going to cut the players back, and also like we said, like towns like E Town, like they love their baseball. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it'd be devastating for them, but yeah, I do see a spike in indie ball for sure, or just
Yeah.
other leagues in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Just same thing. I just wanted to hear your point of view on that. I mean, it's just a kind of shitty situation all around, but you said it perfectly. It's just kind of like making the best of what
Yeah,
we have, or what we can do, and I hope everyone else is doing the same as well.
absolutely.
Bringing it back to you and baseball. This is something I've asked everybody else, ah, everyone else as well. Is do you have any regrets, and just in terms of baseball, like maybe going to a certain college or you know whatever it may be, something along those lines. A lot of guys
Uh,
have just straight up said that they don't have any.
yeah, I don't know. I'll give it like an answer kind of as to why I don't, that I can think of at least. I'm sure there are some where I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe that wasn't a good idea. But I guess the reason I'd say I don't is because like everything that happens up to this point has made me who I am as not only a baseball player but as a person. And
Hmm.
so it's like it'd be easy for me to say like, oh, I remember this game when I got slapped around the park and and I was trash. But it'd be easy for me to say like, oh, I wish I could get rid of that outing or whatever.
Hmm.
Like I was straight Chiefs for weeks out there. But it's like it's easy for me to say that looking back on it. But at the same time, like, nah, because then that outing gave me fuel for my next outing to say, okay, this is what I did wrong. This is what I have to change. Never also just like I think everything happens for a reason. So it's like if that's how it's gonna go, that's how it's gonna go. I'll live with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
All right. Yeah, that's a pretty straightforward answer, and I think a lot of at least ball players in the sense can kind of attest to that as well. All right, we're gonna move on to for this one. I kind of have I left a little bit more time for you to answer these questions, because one of them is gonna include a long story,
hmm
if you're willing to share it. That is.
sure, sure.
We're gonna move on to the back pick segment.
Ooh, good pickup, snap, throw back to first. Got him. Souza too far off.
So a lot of these questions are going to. This includes very general, basic questions, and then it's my job to kind of slap you across the face with one of the questions.
Yeah,
So,
sure,
all right,
sure. See what you got.
all right. So we're gonna go over a couple stats out of you. Okay, I couldn't
hmm
find any high school stats. I don't know.
No, too small of a school,
Okay.
so they're not out there. But
So, but I do have that you went to Orville High School in Ohio. Is that correct?
that's correct.
That's your hometown, born and raised?
hmm
And then you went to the University of Cincinnati.
Of course, yes.
And you were there for 4 years. Did you redshirt at all or no?
Nope,
No. Okay.
nope. Four straight years.
So here I have you were a two-way player your first year, which you had mentioned earlier. And you had 11 at bats, as you had
Yeah,
mentioned earlier.
yeah. Stay hot. Why don't you give me that
Yeah.
on base
Yeah.
percentage?
Yeah. And it says here you had 0 hits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you want to explain what happened there?
I'll explain what happened. You know what happened? I hit in the fall, right?
Okay.
This could be one of my longer stories. I'll try to keep it short. I hit in the fall. It was so, Like I said, new school, trying to figure out
Oh wait, hold on.
all.
I wanna cut you off real quick. That I don't. We didn't haven't mentioned this yet. When you came into college, I mean, right now, what's your frame? You're 6'5".
Yeah, 6'4.5" probably.
How
So
much do you weigh?
225,
Would you say you're
220.
about the same size in college?
I was probably 215 when I came in.
Yeah.
So I
So
probably
you're a big body.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm like, oh, you know what? Hitting's not going well. I'm looking straight dumpster fire out here. But I'm like, you know what? I've been throwing well enough. It's all right. This is a lot of work. And I feel like, believe it or not, they brought us in as a two-way. And like I said, there were 22 freshmen.
Yeah.
Well, there was like six other two-ways. And
Okay.
I like to think there were only like, I'm not going to call any names, but there were only like two or three of us that had any business calling themselves two-ways. I'm not going to say who they were, but I felt like I was one of them. I was defensively, if there was a defensive specialist first baseman, your boy's in there. I could still play first base. I could still pick it. I'm chugging it across the diamond, everything. But oh man, hitting was so bad. My swing was long,
Yeah.
and I didn't really figure it out. So by the end of the fall, they were just like, "Hey, we're just gonna have you pitch." I'm like, "Hey, no problem. That ain't no problem. My Shannon Sharp. And I'm like, so that's cool. Then like April rolls around. We're already in conference play, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a Friday, and we're playing Tulane. And I don't know the dude's name, but he was a draft guy, and he's throwing like 92 power sinkers. But I'm like, hey, I got nothing to worry about. I'm not a hitter, right? I haven't picked up a bat in 5 months. Well, I look at the lineup. I'm in the 4-hole. I'm not kidding. I'm in the 4-hole. I haven't picked up a bat in 5-6 months. I'm like, okay, this must be a mistake. We just signed a new JUCO player named J.T Perez. I've never heard of him. Nope, it's me. So I'm like, oh, okay. I hit one round of BP. They were like, oh yeah, good luck. Whatever, you're DHing.
So what was the explanation from your coaches there?
They're not much. Not much. They were like, hey, if you're an athlete, aren't you? You'll figure it out. Well, that's not really how it works. Like even pitchers in the National League, they take batting practice. So like they had a better chance than I did at this time. So I get out there and I swing at like 3 straight sinkers, like not even close to the zone probably. And that was the thing in high school. I swung at everything. When dudes are throwing like 85, I could hit everything. Long arms, I could get to everything. I'm swinging. I walked like 3 times. So I swung at like 3 terrible sinkers. Just had no chance, no clue what I was doing. Swing was way off. I felt like Charles Barkley's golf swing, except that was, baseball. So I get back to the dugout. I get reamed, which I don't know how. What do you want me to do? I should have bunted or something. But whatever. I'm going down swinging. That's what I do. So I played like that whole weekend or whatever. And finally, it came to the point where like I started pitching like on a Saturday or Sunday. I came out of the bullpen, and this was my moment, right? This is my destiny, right? I'm up, bases loaded. We got a lefty-lefty matchup, but he's throwing straight cement mixer curveballs. I'm like, oh, we'll see you. I'm putting it on top of the basketball stadium. Today's my day, right? Well, he throws me 3 straight cement mixers, nowhere near the zone. But I'm like, oh, I'm seeing it so well. It's coming in at like 68. So I'm like, I'm swinging 3-0. And I look over, and he just doesn't even give me a sign. I just get ahead, like, no, don't even think about it, right? So I take my curveball. It's a 4-0 walk. I take my American League RBI. I get my ribby, and that's my only on base. On base percentage, 111, whatever it is. And
somewhere in there.
Maybe it's 0.91. I don't know. It's trash. I struck out 5 times too. And I think we set the record for NCAA, like most strikeouts in the season that year. It was like 590 something.
At least you can say you contributed to that pretty well, right?
I did. I can say I'm in the record books for that, and I'm glad I got that ribby. Because
hey man, I didn't pick up a bat.
I earned it. Yeah. What are you gonna do? You can't take that away.
All right. On to the good stats for you. You had a career in 4 years. You had a career ERA of 3.53. Okay, it's pretty good. Over the course of 283 innings. A lot of innings to throw in college.
Mm-hmm.
You had 87 walks and 202 strikeouts. My favorite stat out of all this is you had 30 hit by pitches.
Oh yeah.
And 11 your senior year, which was your best year, with a 2.81 ERA, a 6-4 win-loss record. That sound right? And that included 93 innings.
Yeah.
So you were a workhorse your entire college career.
And I'm plunking dudes. I once hit a kid in the neck. He was squaring up the bunt. This is my freshman year. He's squaring up the bunt. He's left-handed. And I just run a fastball, hits him right in the throat. And he turned. He went. And they put him on base and everything. I wanted to throw a fit. I was a nice guy. I said, you know what? I just drilled him right in the throat. So we'll let it slide. But
okay.
I was no stranger to plunking dudes. Yeah.
And then in your little player card that I got under your video is your twin stats and some of them. So the ones I got are in your career so far. You have 54.2 innings, a 3.79 ERA, 29 walks, and 57 strikeouts. You like those numbers?
Hey, those walks are high.
The walks are high?
Yeah, but
Okay.
we're working on it. We're working on it. That was the one thing I will say, that's the one thing I could be disappointed about too. I felt like I was having a good spring training, how short it was, I know, but I thought I was going to turn it on this year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll let me back out there. But I felt like I was starting to piece some things together, but there's always room for improvement. So
yeah, exactly. Out of all those numbers that I said, I just strictly statistical baseball stats. Okay, What do you believe is your biggest achievement?
You know what it is I would say I'll start with college first. I had some complete games, and that was fun because like throwing 9 complete innings is something that I'll never get to do again. I'm not a starter, but like it was one thing where it's just like the absolute wave that the whole game takes you on. In that first inning, you might not have a pitch. By the 7th inning, you're like, oh, I got all of them, and then by that 9th inning, you're like, I only have a changeup. How are we gonna get through this inning?
Yeah.
So like those are fun because like that, and you see the same dude. You're starting to see the same dudes 3-4 times. Like you start to have to grind through and really like mentally work yourself to like, okay, how can I get this guy out? So those were cool. I'm proud of those. I would say in Twins terms, this past season, I think I had one of the things I look out for now as I'm a reliever. I think I had 11 inherited runners, and I let 2 of them score, which isn't bad.
No, that's not bad.
But I was mad because the 2 that scored were on a lefty in Quad Cities. They were Funderburk's runs, Cody Funderburk. I'm still sorry to this day. He was a lefty, and he literally hits it, doesn't even know, like he thinks it's foul. Like that's how much it hit the line, and it was like a bloop right over third.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was gonna go the whole year because there's nothing worse than somebody coming in and giving up your runs.
Yeah.
No matter how tough the situation is. So I'm proud of that because I felt like I tried to improve on that the most last year. But.
Yeah. No, that's probably my favorite stat when I was in college was because like your freshman year I wasn't a closer and I wasn't really that good, and then my sophomore year we kind of had like a 3-man rotation for closer. You just go with best available, and so biggest thing was in college your closer can go in the 5th inning if the coach thinks that's the turning point of the game. So going in with bases loaded or 2 runners on with 1 or 0 outs in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, the most of the time it's momentum changing runs also. So those are my favorite too. All right. You're a big football guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite NFL team?
It's the Steelers.
Why?
I don't know. My dad was always a Steelers fan, so that's the way we were raised. I was Pittsburgh everything growing up. Penguins, Pirates, Steelers, all that.
Is he from there?
No, it was a funny story I guess he has about like he was like 5 years old. It was the first Super Bowl he remembered, and his uncle like bet him $1 that the Cowboys would win. So he put one on the Steelers. Ever since he was like, I'm a Steelers fan.
Did the Steelers win? I don't know football.
They did.
Nice.
They did. So.
The reason that I asked you about football is because you're not a very big video game player like I am, but you love you some Madden.
Oh yeah. You know what's funny is, you know what I'll say? If Twitch was big 10 years ago, I'm a pretty big streamer. I'm not kidding. Like you could still like you give me an old Xbox and you give me like the Tony Hawk's, like all the Tony Hawk's, or like even the skate games on like PS3, or like any of the snowboard like Amped, and like any of the sports games, like games like that, like shooters, I'm horrible. I'm absolute garbage. But you give me any of the sports games or like the action games like motocross or like skateboarding, stuff like that, lights out. I've beat them all like numerous times. And I had buddies that were like, "Yo, I just want to watch you play this." And little did I know, like I never understood back then. I'm like, why would you want to
Yeah.
do that? So like 10 years ago, yeah, OG Xbox and then like GameCube.
Just strictly off of skill, not
Yeah.
personality, because you wouldn't say a word, huh?
No, like I said, I let my playing do the talking. You know what I'm saying? I play with the claw too.
Oh, okay.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got there. So like, and that's like a shooter thing. That's like
Mhm.
like you probably a shooter. Nope, trash. But like, dude, yeah, I don't know what it is. Those are the games I'm good
So
at. I'm still good at NHL, but
here, now that you mentioned that, okay, I don't play on claw. Okay, I got a controller here. I'm just straight over the top. Okay.
yeah,
I shoot with these. Most people shoot with the back ones. That's the only thing that I really do different. But most people that are like super try hard, they play claw, where their
yeah.
index finger touches a button.
Oh yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know that
Yep.
he's talking about, this is what claw means.
Yeah, here we go. This is literally me right here. And you're like, what is this guy doing?
Oh, do you have?
It's the joy. It's the joystick, not even button.
Oh, I was
So
gonna say because you're left-handed, so you do
Yeah.
the. Wow.
So yeah, so I'm right here. But that's good for me because like,
I don't think I've ever seen that.
yeah. See, I'm a specialist. People on Twitch would eat it up. But that's why I was so good at like Madden and like NHL and stuff like that, is because like my stick skills are like moving around. Like I felt like, oh, I was right in there. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. Like those are games.
You're
like
in the
skate.
playbook.
Yeah, I'm diving in.
Okay.
So
Well, the reason that I brought up Madden is because I felt that you had a very interesting skill set that I don't know anyone else. I'm not big in football. I don't play Madden. But you know Madden like the back of your hand.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put you right on the spot, okay?
All right. I'm nervous.
I got 2 years for you, all right? Who was on the cover of the 2003 Madden?
That'd be Rams running back Marshall Falk. That was one of the first ones. Like Dante Culpepper's on OT.
Yeah, that's correct. I just want people to know, like,
that's when I started jumping on it. So
he got for 09.
see, that's a tough one because I'm like, those are the in between years where like Vince Young's 08, and I always get it confused because I like my Xbox 360 broke.
Okay.
Right? So I didn't have 09.
So you had an off year. Okay.
So I want to say, oh, I know who it is, but it's a trick question because you either had Brett Favre in a Jets uniform or a Packers uniform.
It is far, but I did not know that.
But the thing is, I do remember now. I ended up getting it, and I had the booklet that didn't have anybody on it. It was just like Madden, not 25. It was Madden 20 or something.
Yeah.
It came with like NFL head coach, which is like the worst game of all time. So I will say I do know it's Brett Favre.
Okay. Yeah.
Now the soundtracks, that's where I'm really good because you play a song and I'll be like, Madden 05? That's where I'm good. So.
Okay. I don't have any questions on that.
That's fine.
But I just wanted to show that's still pretty impressive. That kind of blows my mind.
I was a grinder.
I got 2 more questions for you. Okay, one's really quick, and then one is you can go on a little story time with it. Okay.
Sure.
I did not know this until I was looking up your stats. How do you pronounce your first name?
It's Jared.
It's Jared.
Yeah.
You want to spell it?
It's like Gerard. So it's Jerrod.
Wait, do it again.
Jerrod.
Okay, because online they have it J.E. It's Gerard. Yeah, with an R.D.
Not accurate.
That's not accurate?
Yeah,
okay.
That's not accurate. Somebody accidentally hit too many R's on the keyboard. But I don't know why. I still don't know why it's spelled that way. But it's Jared, so I don't know.
No explanation from your parents?
No, she was just like, oh, I always like that name. But
just want to be different?
That spelling, yeah. That's never seen. I've not seen many of them. That's for sure.
What's the T stand for?
Tyler.
Is that your middle name?
Yep, Jared Tyler.
did you go to JT or is that a parent's decision?
It was my parents, because my older brother is Anthony Jordan, is his first and middle, and he call him AJ. So it was AJ and JT growing up all the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, the last question I have for you, and you can feel free to, I guess, how do I want to phrase it? I don't want you to put anybody on the spot or put
Sure.
it like name any names.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
I want you to tell the story of your military camp experience.
Oh, I knew. So there's 3 of them. Now I'll tell the one that was
I want
worst.
the worst one. Yes.
So we did it my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Freshman year, I'll give little blips. Freshman year, I'm like, I don't know what we're doing. It's always right before Thanksgiving. So you're like, oh, right before you can go have some turkey, you're going to be put through an absolute test. And you're like, oh, I don't know why, but here we are. So freshman year, we literally have a kid laying on a stretcher, and then there's 4 of us holding the stretcher, and we're blindfolded. And we walked like 3 miles across campus, across Martin Luther King, which is like 4 lanes wide. And we're literally like carrying a dude on a stretcher blindfolded, and he has to tell us where we're going. And he's got like a map in his hand. He's like, oh, you got to go 2 steps right, and then a couple steps forward. Oh, it was horrible. Right. So I'm like, this is terrible. So I didn't enjoy that. Anybody knows me, I can go on for hours about how some of the conditioning things that we did was not a big fan of. So sophomore year, it was like the same thing. We did the stretcher thing, but there were no blindfolds, but we went even further. So we went like, I don't know, 5 miles. I don't know what it was. So that it was kind of the similar thing. And we played like paintball. So it was supposed to be fun afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Except like, I don't think my gun was registering right because I wasn't even able to shoot. So I was basically just hiding behind a pile of leaves and like diving all over the place. And like, it was a mess. So that was sophomore year. That was still tough. Junior year. Now, I've never wanted to be in the military. I have nothing against it. But what they do is crazy. Like this is literally like, this is a 24-hour, just, you get stomped out. Like, if you walk out of there, you're lucky. You know what I mean? You're probably crawling. So we hop in these vans. I'm like, all right, I know we're in for one because we signed a waiver.
Hold on. Okay, so this is what I wanted you to specifically say, that this is like, yes, this is affiliated with the program or whatever, but you had to sign a waiver because this is how nobody gets in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where, you know, they tell you like, oh, you don't have to do it, but you got to do it. Like it's voluntary, but like it's voluntary. So I'm like, oh, we're signing a waiver, but we don't have to do it. Right. So we get in the vans. I'm like, this is going to be the worst one yet. We're doing an overnight trip out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get just annihilated. And I can already tell. We brought sleeping bags. It's like 40 degrees out. So it's like half rain, half snow. And we get there, and right away they hand us these freaking paintball masks, and they're like, all right, we got it all mapped out. You know, there's a big old loop. They didn't tell us how long the loop was. We had found out afterwards. It's like a 2.5 mile loop. They're like, just start jogging, get a warm up in. So we're like running around someone's freaking farm with paintball masks, and you're like fogging up and can't see anything. And we're doing like just a trail, and there's like 4 teams. Oh, we're already dying. You know, it's hard to breathe out there when you're going that long, but we're used to it because we used to run a lot, whatever. You know, that mental toughness.
Great.
So we strolled in after that first lap. I'm like, all right, like there'll probably be some talking. I got a break, right? Like it'll ease itself up. No. They were like, oh, grab these military bags, these old book bags that like they have like a metal bar on the back that like jam into your back like when you're running and stuff. So it feels horrible. And they're like, oh yeah, carry that to this point in the yard or whatever. And we like filled it with boulders. And I was like trying to scoop loose dirt, right? You see people scooping loose dirt, trying not to get the big chunks. But if they saw you do that, they'd grab the biggest chunk they could find and like stuff it in there. So I'm like, oh, we're in trouble. And so then we started wearing those the whole time. And it's like 70 pounds on your back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, this is terrible, whatever. So we finished another loop running with this bag on. And then it was like, oh, now we got these 800-pound logs or whatever. And, you know, the 5 of you, you're going to throw it on your shoulder and run it around. So, you're running around again. And at every corner, there's 4 corners, and you're doing freaking squats with the log. But the problem is some people are shorter than others. So the shorter guy's shoulder comes off the log when you're like going down the squat. So then it ends up being like 500 pounds on your shoulder. Oh man, I'm dying, right? So we do like a bunch of other more laps or whatever. And then finally we play like paintball, but it's pitch black. You can't see anything. And I swear to this day, I still remember what it looked like. We're on a cornfield out in the middle of nowhere, and I just laid down. I looked up at the sky. I said, this is it. This is how I'm going out. This has been the worst day of my life, and it's not even over. It's going to get so much worse. And I just laid there. I'm like, maybe if I lay here, they won't even know I'm gone. So I lay there. That was my break. I lay there for like 25 minutes. Game ends, whatever. Then we go inside, hang out in the barn, have like a little talk session, whatever. So then it's like midnight. And they're like, all right, yeah, go to bed. You know, we'll come get you early in the morning. We'll get out of here, right? And I can tell, like, that's a lie. I don't buy that one bit.
Yeah.
So I'm laying in my sleeping bag, and at like 1:45 in the morning, somebody comes running in. Hey, we got to go back to the site. We got to be there in 5 minutes. Everybody pack up. We got to get out of here. And I was like, I didn't even sleep. I was like, why would I? Because I'm gonna be mad if I wake up and they tell me this. So I'm just gonna lay here. So we get out and go and start running. But at this time, we hadn't eaten anything.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't allowed to eat anything for like these 24-hour stretch. And you're like, we ended up doing like the same thing over and over again. Like when we went back out, we like restarted the program. I'm like dry heaving. I'm like gag. I'm like dying. Like I'm like trying to hurl, but I got nothing to puke. Oh, it's terrible. People are starting to lip off to the commanders. You know, they're like literal like Green Berets are like leader.
Yeah.
Literally like, dude, you can shove it. Like, and it's funny because like I respect what they do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for them, and I can't believe they do that stuff. Good for them. But I was like, I never wanted to do this.
That's why I'm a baseball player.
There's a reason I'm a baseball player. I know I can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? So we finally get out of there like 6, and I literally like, the funniest thing was we get out of there. It's like 7 in the morning. I go straight to Subway and Panera Bread, and I got like a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel, and I walked straight to Subway and got like 2 foot longs, and I just laid in bed and had my breakfast, lunch, and dinner ready for me right there. I was like, I'm just gonna eat these. Nobody talk to me for the next 28 hours. Like, don't. So that was like, there are so many stories. I mean, it's unbelievable. But that was like the one where it was like, we ended up doing like 27 or 28 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh my goodness, dude.
So just to clarify, if people kind of got lost in the explanation, when did you start?
Oh man, I mean, we went out at probably 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and we left
the next morning at 7
Yeah,
a.m.
we left at 7 a.m. Yeah. And this place was like an hour away. Oh, it was bad. I was like, I'm dying. Bones deteriorating. I came out of there weighing $120. I was dead. I was like, oh, I gotta go.
But it was team bonding.
Hey, for all that, when I'm out there on the mound and I'm in a jam, that's that greasy mentality. I think, hey, remember how much that log weighed? Now go get him.
And then when you're having a bad outing, you're just telling yourself there was nothing worse than that night.
Yeah, literally, nothing ever. It's crazy because we did other conditionings, or like I've been in some situations where it's like, oh man, I'm in a real jam, or I'm struggling, I'm in a slump. It doesn't matter, dude. It could be so much worse. I mean, I know that now. If that was the lesson, I got it.
I got it. Yep.
Whatever. So.
All right, man. I appreciate you sharing that story with us. We're gonna end it there. Thanks again for being having your own episode, man.
When you hit me up and told me that you wanted me to be on, I was honored, man.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. That's the thing. People think I'm quiet.
Yeah.
But you get me going. So no, I had fun. I enjoyed it, man. Thank you.
So if there's any fans out there of J.T Perez that go to the next whenever spring training comes up, and if you want his autograph and he's looking at you like, just know
My face.
just know that he means no harm.
It's true. It's true. I promise.
All right, man.
I got a heavy RBF.
All right, man. It was good talking to you.
Absolutely, man.
All right, catch you later. Bye, bro.
See ya.